Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to speak for up to 5 minutes.
Without objection.
Mr. President, the Republican tax plan we are debating today is a sham. It is a solution in search of a problem. The President and his allies in Congress are bound and determined to give the richest people in our country and large corporations huge tax cuts that will magically trickle down to create a fantastic, incredible, wonderful economy. Why? Why do we even need this? Corporations and the richest 1% of people in our country are doing just fine, thank you very much. They certainly don't need any more goodies. Over the past 10 years, corporate profits have grown exponentially. More wealth is concentrated in the hands of the top 1% than at any time since the Great Depression. Groups like the U.S. Chamber of Commerce claim this bill will spur new investment and help workers. What world are they living in? Corporations have sheltered over $2.6 trillion offshore to avoid paying taxes. This is money they could already be using to create jobs, build factories, or raise employee wages. Not happening, won't happen. These people and corporations do not need more money and profits. On the other hand, middle-class families have been seeing stagnant wages for nearly 20 years. Healthcare continues to be a political football, with the President sabotaging the Affordable Care Act and congressional efforts to repeal the healthcare law. The cost of a college education is increasingly out of the reach of middle-class families. The list goes on, but rather than crafting a tax plan that would actually help middle-class families, Donald Trump and the Republican Party have decided to screw them over instead, all to give rich people and corporations huge tax cuts they do not need. In Hawaii, we have a word to describe what's happening here. The word is shibai, or BS. We've had little time to debate the devastating impact of this massive bill, but even in the short amount of time we've had, it's clear how many of the major provisions in this bill would harm middle-class families. For example, this bill eliminates the individual mandate for health care, which is just another way to repeal the Affordable Care Act. How many bites out of this repeal apple are the Republicans going to take? 13 million people will lose their health insurance. Premiums for everyone else will increase significantly every year as a result of this yet another bite out of the ACA apple. Do they think that these millions of people who will be hurt will not notice what's happening to them in their health care? I don't think so. The devastating impact of this bill is not limited to the parts that we've all heard about. The Republican tax scam has a number of obscure provisions that are already having or will cause real harm. The House bill, for example, eliminates the ability of state and local governments to issue something called private activity bonds. And this kind of bond is certainly not something that you hear about being discussed at Morning Joe or Wolf Blitzer, but they're critical to our communities. Through private activity bonds, the federal government allows state and local governments to issue tax-exempt bonds to finance certain kinds of projects that help our communities. State and local governments routinely issue these kinds of bonds to construct schools, new hospitals, etc. And although this bill hasn't even passed Congress yet, it's already having a devastating impact. Let me give you a concrete example. Residents of West Maui have been waiting for a hospital for decades. Right now, on their side of the island, if there is a medical emergency, the only way an ambulance can get from West Maui to Maui Memorial, the island's only hospital, is on a 2-lane highway. The lane winds around the side of a cliff, making it susceptible to rocks and flash floods. The other lane is being eaten away by coastal erosion. So on a normal day, when nothing goes wrong, it can take over an hour to reach Maui Memorial from West Maui. But if there's traffic or an accident on the highway, you can forget about it. For serious injuries and illnesses, even an hour is too long to wait for life-saving medical care. Construction of this West Maui Hospital and Medical Center is clearly important and needed. And when the project is completed, West Maui will have, for the first time, dedicated emergency room services and other essential services. It will save lives. And although initial work on this project has begun, construction has stalled. Why? Because financing for the project is being held up out of fear that Republicans in Congress will eliminate the private activity bonds this project needs for completion. Other hospitals in Hawaii have used these kinds of activity bonds. Kapiolani Medical Center for Women and Children in Hawaii that focuses on prenatal care and services for women have expanded their facilities and their ability to treat literally thousands of new people. I have visited this hospital. I've heard from them. They cannot understand why Donald Trump and his Republican allies in Congress could, in good conscience, cut a program that saves lives, all to finance tax cuts not needed for the richest people and corporations in our country. So if we're serious about a tax plan that will truly help middle-class families in a meaningful way, we need to kill this terrible bill and start over. Mr. President, I yield the floor.